We have 21 palettes that I used in the month of July. And then we also have a comprehensive review of the Dede signature in collaboration with Jamie, who is Makeup on Your Radar 2, the Plume collection. So we got a lot going on in this video. Let's go ahead and get it started. Hello, my gorgeous ones. Welcome to Aleisha Budget Beauty. My name is Aleisha. Here on my channel, I love all things affordable fashion, beauty, and fragrance. I do hauls, tutorials, reviews, monthly palette rankings and roundups, all sorts of fun things. So if that sounds good to you, please subscribe, stick around, be a friend. Okay, you guys, I was wondering how to structure this video since I am doing my typical monthly ranking of all the palettes that I use, but I'm also reviewing the Plume collection. So I think I'm going to just start with the Plume collection first, and then I'll show you where they ranked within my ranking. But I wanted to go ahead and do a little dedicated review to this collection because Jamie, who was the curator, the collaborator, the designer, everything, like she is a friend of mine, and she was so sweet to include me to have Dede Signature send me this collection. If you guys been watching some of my videos, you already know that I'm a Dede Signature fan. I've always purchased all of my palettes from her. This is the first time that I got anything in PR, so I was very grateful, and I thought it deserved, even though I didn't do a YouTube video doing all the looks on camera, I did do, actually now 4. This is my 4th look. You guys are seeing it. Hello. But I posted my other 3 looks on Instagram, and so yeah, so let me go ahead and just show it to you guys. And I also swatched all of these out. I will show you in a minute, all together on an arm. And I had a friend request that of me because she just wanted to see it all together. And spoiler alert though, a little foreshadowing, I didn't really swatch them, I don't think, in like the right color scheme. I usually feel like I'm better at coming up with a color story than how I chose to swatch them out. I'll show you here in a minute and you'll see why, but hey, I tried. Okay, so first of all, this is the box, which you guys, how freaking cool is this? Like, you think it's just this, but no, it's this. It's so neat. And I do love that you can get the whole collection for $76. So you can get all 4 palettes and it will come in a box like this. They will be in here, so cool. Or you can get them individually, and I think that's so smart to break it up. The palettes are $18.99 unless you get the all iridescent palette that is effervescent. This one is $25.99 because you're getting iridescent shades. It's a special shade palette. So real quickly, let me just show you each one of them. So we have Extravagance here. I'll wait and show you the looks whenever it's in the ranking. Then we have Elegance. Ta-da! And then Eloquence. And then we have Effervescence, which is the all iridescent palette. Now, I will tell you, formula-wise, I felt like these mattes were a little bit different, and I may be wrong. It may just be me. I felt like they were a little bit different than what I'm used to from Dede Signature, not necessarily in a bad way, just a little different. In the other palettes, the matte seemed to be a little bit more buttery and smooth and soft, whereas these were a little bit drier and it seemed slightly thinner. So I did get some kick up in the pan with these, and I advise you definitely to tap off your brush. At first I didn't, and I definitely had like blue and green down and had to kind of wipe off and redo under the eyes, but I felt like they blended really nicely. I don't feel like the difference in the formula, and again, it may be the same formula and I'm just cray, but I don't feel like it made my looks any less professional looking. I didn't really struggle with blending. It's just something that I observed and noticed, I believe. Let me tell you, since I'm going to have the other 3 looks in the ranking, I'll just talk about this look that I have on it today because there's also something special about this look. Number 1, I used every single palette in this look. So let's see, let me start with, okay, so in Elegance, I used both of the greens. Then in Extravagance, I used this green here. And in Eloquence, I actually used this black shade because at first I didn't have that. And for me, and you'll kind of see this reflected in my ranking, these tones of greens on me are not always my favorite. I'd say out of all of them, the brighter kind of neon green is my favorite shade on myself. I love bright, verdant, true greens, like grassy greens on other people. On me, I like them, but it's not my favorite shade of green. But it definitely fits this theme, so I think it was spot on. I like more of like a grungy green, a deep foresty green, or neon greens than like true greens on me. So at first I wasn't really digging this look that much, but when I added this black, that's all I had to do was just a little bit right here and a little bit to deepen up. And then I was like, oh, okay, now I love this. So that is one of my key points in where I feel like these really go together nicely and they help to mix the two, because without this black, I was like, And then when I add the black, it just took it to a whole nother place. So I'm glad I had all the palettes to put them together to create this look, because honestly, I think this is my second favorite look out of all 4 that I did with the individual palettes, the other 3. Then as far as the shimmers on my lid, I really wanted to use the iridescence this time on the lid instead of just the inner corner, because in the other 3 looks that I did with the individual palettes, I used this as a companion palette only for the inner corner. So I used all 3 of these shades today for my lid look. And they're so pretty. They're pretty both ways. They're excellent inner corner. I mean, I'm blown away by this palette. I love it. I don't know how I didn't have this palette before. It's such a good companion palette, and it's just the perfect go-to for shimmers, inner corner. So that's what I have going on shimmer wise. But also I happen to use this one here, the pinky one, as my highlight. So it does work as a highlight palette, which is awesome. But the other interesting thing I have going on actually on the cheeks is I had somebody else on Instagram ask if you could use any of these as blushes, which I always say, of course, like you can use shadows as blushes all the time. But to see what they actually look like, so I used 2 and they are pigmented as blushes. So that's my only, I guess, qualifier is if you're going to use eyeshadows that pack some punch as a blush, go very light-handed. And I went light-handed and it's still, I'm blushing for sure. So I used this shade in Eloquence as the uppermost blush shade, and then I went into this shade right here from Extravagance right here. So I did a little like ombre gradient effect with it. So yes, you can definitely use them as blushes. I'd say you could probably even get away with using the purple if you went, very light-handed. And just stuck my fingernail right in that shade. No. Okay, I hate when I do that. All right, so now as far as how it all swatches together, so I'm gonna scoot and I will put it in over here, the little video of the swatches together. And what I was going for is I was trying to put all of the blues together and the greens together so that you could see there's definitely no repeats for sure. And you could see how the blues would look next to each other, how you could incorporate them together, as a gradient, and same thing with the greens. But as it swatched out, I feel like I should have interspersed some of the, iridescence and the shimmers every other with the matte so that it would look more cohesive. So I would say by looking at this, does it look like the most cohesive palette if these were all in one and it was a 20 pan? The way I have swatched out, maybe not, but there was a method to my madness. And I mean, you can see right now today that I used all 4 palettes together and I got a very cohesive look out of it. So I really think that they're all, worthy palettes. I think as far as do I recommend getting the entire collection? If you like every color story, absolutely go for it. If you're like, I hate blues, skip the blue one. You know, if you don't like a purple in a palette, skip the one with the purple. Or if you're like, I only wear neutrals, but the iridescents look awesome, then I would hands down, I would say grab the iridescent. If you were going to get one of them, that's the one that I recommend. Even though, you know, I know a lot of people like mattes in their palettes, but it's just such a pretty companion palette. But I really love the whole collection. I think Jamie did an absolute phenomenal job on the concept and the execution, like the packaging, the names, the theming of peacocks. It's the color stories as far as it goes with like peacocks and plumes and the feathers and the extravagance and the, you know, peacocking and being showy and, you know, bombastic, but in a beautiful way. I mean, I couldn't ask for anything else. I wouldn't have changed a thing as far as theming goes. I think she did such a great job. So yes, I do recommend it. And it does launch on the 16th, pre-order, and then it'll start shipping out on the 20th, and it'll be just live to everyone on August 20th. So yeah, that is my little, you know, just wanted to give you guys my rundown of the Plume collection with Dede Signature and Jamie from Makeup on Your Radar too. But now let's go ahead and get into the month of July palette ranking. All right, you guys, so this month was hard. Every month is hard when I commit to actually ranking, but this month was really hard because I really liked every single palette. So this is kind of Sophie's choice. It is also, the way I ended up ranking it is more so color story. The very beginning of this ranking, maybe it's like a little lesser quality of, you know, actual pigments and blending and everything. But for the most part, because everything was so good, it's mainly a color story thing for me, or just how I liked how my looks turned out. So I'll let you know if you know about the formula and stuff, but just keep in mind, I like every single one of these palettes. Okay, so at the bottom, we have one of the new Smashbox palettes. So they actually sent two over to me, and here is the box that it came in. If you guys have seen this online, I was so bummed, you guys, because the two palettes I was the most interested in are these two right here. This green just sold the whole palette for me. I thought it just looked so cool popped in there, and I was like, yes, Smashbox, that's really cool. You popped in that lime green unexpectedly. And then this one, I just thought it was pretty with like the purple tones, a little bit different too, not super boring. What did they do? They sent me the two most boring looking palettes in here. But I will say, so the bottom one is Cozy Vibes. There's nothing really wrong with this palette. I liked my look. It was easy to use. There's virtually no fallout in this palette. And so for that, for people who hate fallout, and you want really simple, easy to use, a simple neutral palette and very compact on the go, then I highly recommend it. Would I buy this palette myself? No, I would not, but I don't think it's a really bad palette. I'm not sure I'll keep it forever in my collection. If I do, it's mainly to have a compact, throw in a bag neutral palette. So easy to use, not my favorite of the bunch though, but not a bad palette. The next one, you know, I kind of feel bad having it at the bottom because I really like this palette. This is a brand new collection. I think it's limited edition from Buxom. They also sent this one over to me. It's the Dolly's Glam Getaway palette. There's actually a whole collection with this that is a plumping lipstick, a lip cream, and a lip gloss. Also a liner. I feel like I'm leaving something else out. Anyway, we're talking about the palette today. So this is a very, you know, mauve-y, soft glam, very romantic kind of color story and palette. You can see the sparkles right here are really pretty. I've actually grown to really like their formula. It's different. It's kind of hard to describe, but you can even tell by looking at it in the pan that it's a unique kind of matte formula. And it, because of that, it blends really easily. I mean, these truly blend themselves, even though they're not like the most pigmented and densely packed and like soft and buttery. They're more like kind of light and airy sort of mattes. Hard to explain, but I mean, foolproof. They blend so beautifully. This is a beautiful, again, on the go, soft glam mauve moment. So really, really pretty. Definitely not bad having it this low. Okay, this one, you guys, I actually loved my look with this. This is the other Smashbox. This is the Fiery Vibes one. I like it better because I like this color story better. It is just more fiery. The other one's kind of cozy and boring, and this one packs a little bit more punch with the orange shimmer specifically. It is so, so pretty on the eyes. Here it is right here. It's just that pumpkin-y, orangey shimmer, and then you also have a kind of antique-y gold shimmer in here as well. So these two are definitely my favorite in here, and it really created such a pretty look, a nice pop on the eyes. There's another shimmer in here that's kind of a dud, this one right here. So again, this formula could have been better, but I at least like that they're trying and that they're nice and cute and easy on the go. Okay, guys, really here on out, this is like just, it's hard to pick because I like all these palettes so much. So this is the Eastern Fall Sydney Gray. So came out with 4 palettes. I have a video on all of them and the sale that is still going on, the Christmas and July sale. So I know this one's low down here, but remember, I really, really like all these palettes. It's hard. I guess because this one is just more neutral leaning, and I really like that there's the peachy tone in here and this kind of reddish orange and the yellow. I talked about that in the video, that I thought it was kind of a unique spin putting that in a fall palette, like the pinky peach that we don't always see. But it's just that out of all 4 of my looks, this was my least favorite look that I did. So maybe it's just me, and I've only used it once, so you know, this could definitely go up in the future. It's a beautiful formula. You guys know I love Sydney Grace. Just kind of going with this one off of like all my looks for the month. So this is a little quad from Dede Signature, and I say I never got anything in PR. I didn't get this in PR. She just sent 2 quads with my last order as a bonus. So this was one of them, and this is Taste of Guava, and I mean, it performs great. It actually would pair really, really well with Extravagance that you just saw from the Plume collection. This is more just, it's a quad, and it's, you know, 4 colors together, that this, you know, is a little bit lower because of that. But formula is there, the formula that I'm kind of used to. And yeah, I think it would pair so well with the collection. Now I'm getting in to this one a little bit. So neutrals, if you guys saw my video reviewing the Cosmic Brushes neutrals and the Culturals, I talked about being a little bit disappointed. Like at first I was real disappointed, and then I kind of came around and liked it better than I thought, but I still had a lot of critiques of the palettes. But this was my least favorite of the 2, even though I love this color story. I mean, it's a gorgeous fall looking neutral color story. I just didn't think it performed as well on the eyes as it looks in the palette. And I had my hopes up. My expectations were high because I've got several other palettes that I thought, like the Mews palette, I just thought the formula is better in there. Again, it may be the same formula. It may be me. I just didn't feel like it was as impactful. And I thought the rise of cost versus, you know, how good it looked on my eyes didn't really add up to me. But color story wise, it's really, really pretty. Okay, then we have another Sydney Grace. We have the Northern Winter palette. And I will say this is the one that I was like, oh, this is my color story. It's my jam. And I liked my look a lot from it, but I need to use it more. I've only used it once, and just looking at it right now, I'm like, ooh, this would be a nice companion with the Crow palette by Wicked Widow Beauty. This is like a little bit more toned down muted version of like the grays and silvers in there and like the burgundy rosy tones. I think if you put the two together, it would have a really pretty gradient. So I need to remember to pair the two, but I really liked my look. I just got to play with it more. The silvers though, those were my favorite. Okay, then we have our first from the Plume collection, and it's so hard to rank these truly because I kind of look at it as a whole collection. But we have the Extravagance palette, and I mean, it's beautiful. I'm just going based off of one color story here of 5 pan. And let me just show you the Guava, since I just mentioned how well they would go together. Look at that. If you've got this one, you could definitely pair those together. It looks, that's a cohesive 10 pan right there. So I love, love, love the shimmers in here so much. Like these two are beautiful. Love them. You know, the blue is not as blue, royal blue as it looks here. It definitely blends out more of kind of a muted navy instead of a royal blue. So I think that took me a little bit by surprise. This shade's pretty true to how it looks, and so is this one. But the blue was not quite as pigmented. It's not a bad thing, just something that I'm noting. Okay, I actually love my looks with this palette. Like out of the whole month, I mean, these two are some of my 2 favorite looks that I had. So this is the Perfusion Twilight palette. They did send this one over to me. This is a $12 palette. Craziness. I will say, these are not my favorite mattes ever, and they're also not my favorite from Perfusion. Sometimes Perfusion mattes are so freaking good, and then sometimes they're okay. These are the okay mattes. Definitely doable. You can make them work. They don't look terrible. They take extra time to blend. They're not as pigmented, and they do get slightly patchy if you don't work on the blending. But the shimmers in here are so pretty, especially this formula. These two, I mean, we're talking like indie level. We're talking adept type of shimmers with these two. Incredible and crazy that they're in a drugstore palette. So this is kind of one of those trade-offs where freaking love this color story also, by the way. It's like, do you want to get this big palette where the mattes are just okay for some banging shimmers for such a cheap price, but you've got this big palette on your hands, you know, or are you like, no, it's not worth it. I don't know. I'm keeping this in my collection. I wish if the mattes were really, really good quality, this would be one of my favorite palettes, because man, color story's there, shimmers are incredible, and I get so excited for quality, affordable palettes. So, man, Perfusion is just almost there with a lot of their palettes, but I'm still really excited about that one. Okay, then we have, this is hard because I'm like, okay. We have the Culturals palette, not going back on my ranking here, by Cosmic Brushes. All right, so kind of same thing with the other one, that looking at it, I love this color story. It just, at first, was kind of disappointing for a couple of shades in here, but then ultimately I really, really loved my looks with these, and I really do like the tones as well. Some of them kind of pull similarly on me, and you know, I don't get as much necessarily like blue as it looks in the palette. It'll pull more gray. That's just something that my skin does, but I liked this one better than neutrals, as far as I thought my looks were more special with this palette than my neutrals. So definitely one I'll pull out in the winter. I still wish, I don't know, I feel like the quality slipped a little on these two palettes. And again, this is the theme of this video. I may be crazy. These may be the exact same formulas, but for whatever reason, I noticed a difference with those two palettes. Okay, next we have the Western Summer palette by Sydney Grace. And this one kind of surprised me because, to be honest, this was the one I was probably least excited about when I opened them up, even though I thought they all looked really pretty. But because here lately I've got a lot of blues and a lot of greens, it kind of gets to the point where you're like, how many more can you have? But tonally, I thought these worked so well. I also had a friend ask how this looks in comparison to the Heaven on Earth palette by Sydney Grace, if there was any crossover, if there were any repeat dupe shades. I swatched all those out for her. I'll have them on the screen. There were no, like, almost not even close. There were two that were sort of similar. This shimmer with one of the others in the other palette. One of them's more silvery and the other one's more turquoisey. So no, there's no crossover, and they do pair really, really nicely together. And I did love my look with this. All right, this next one is a quad. And this is the other one that Dede Signature sent as a bonus with that order that I paid for. And I loved my look with this so much. The tones in here are really, really yummy to me. Kind of like a grungy plum look is what you get out of this. Very unique shades too. I didn't feel like these were repeat shades that I had in my collection. So it's a quad, and that made it pretty high in my ranking because I don't rank quads very high usually. Then we have the Glaminatrix Pretty in Pastels palette. And this is really, truly one of my favorite pastel palettes. Now, I don't feel like pastels are ever going to be extremely high on my list, but, you know, honestly, the Blend Bunny palette, Sickly Sweet, and this one are probably always going to rank higher than others because of the deeper shades in here. So that's what I really like about it, even though I didn't really use those in the look for July. This was used in a collab look where I was trying to do cotton candy, and I immediately thought of this palette because I knew I wanted to do light pink and purple. So I grabbed this. I do really like it. I think it's not just your everyday pastel palette because of those deeper shades. All right, so we have another from the Plume collection. This is the Elegance palette. I do really like this color story. I really like how these blues and greens look together. So like I was saying earlier, if I'm going to do an all green look, I need it to be different tones, you know, to add more interest for my eyes and my skin tone and everything. And if not, I like these if I have other colors to blend in with them, and I do like the blues blended in here. And then this was such a fun and kind of unexpected shimmer to place in here. I don't think I would have thought of that. And it's beautiful framed with these shades. It really stands out and pops, and there's a gorgeous shift to this. There's like a green bronze and almost like a pink. It's really, really, really pretty. And I think this was executed very well. But just a little bit higher than that is the Eloquence palette. And this one snuck up on me. It reminds me of Monster High when I'm looking at it right now. But actually, you know what? This kind of looks like a spooky season palette. I could definitely see pulling this out for, you know, Halloween time looks. And it also is mermaidy. It's like deep sea mermaid. And I didn't even really think about that till I had my looks on Instagram, and a lot of people mentioned it was a mermaid look, and they were right. It is. So it's kind of Halloween, it's kind of mermaid, and it is just, these shades together are really beautiful on. And then I do love that you got a black matte in there if you're going to get the whole collection, that you can always deepen up any of the shades with it. Then we have the last of the Sydney Grace. We have Southern Spring, and well, I say last, it's ranked the highest, but the last of the four, because I love this color story. I kept calling it romantic grunge, and people are like, oh, it is romantic grunge. It's so pretty. It's just yummy. You know, these kind of mauve tones with the kind of mossy greens is such a pretty juxtaposition. Really, really beautiful. Gives a kind of like a smoked out look on the eye, but softer than it would be, you know, if you were using black and gray. It's really, really, really pretty. Okay, my highest ranked from the Plume collection is the Iridescent palette Effervescence. And it's just because all the things that I already said, it's just a perfect little companion palette. If you never know what to put in your inner corner, if you have this, just grab it. Use any of them. They can all go in the inner corner. And I love that because sometimes shimmers in a palette will look like they're an inner corner, but then there's a dark base that you don't know is there. So when you put it, it's kind of too late and you're like, oh man, because it looks kind of like you got a black eye, but then you got this pretty sparkle on top. These are just like sheer enough where they just look ethereal and angelic, but they pack a lot of punch, and they're also really pretty on the lid. And bonus, you can use them as highlighters if you like. So love, 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 love Effervescence. The next one is Sunset Beach. This is an NBA Cosmetics, and this was Deandra Nicole was the collaborator on this. I adore her. She's so, so incredibly talented. And I just love this color story. Like this is like my ultimate summer type of color story. It's so yummy. It's so flattering. These shades are beautiful. It's the ultimate sunset palette. It is so, so, so pretty. I also have really enjoyed pairing this with other palettes. I think it just, you know, if you want something kind of warm, if I'm like, man, this is pretty, but I need it to deepen up a little bit. And especially if I'm thinking, I kind of want to go a sunset vibe with this look, I just bring this out and pair with it. So pretty. All right, then we have, and I definitely want to compare this to another palette and recommend this over the other. This is a Blend Bunny Longing palette. Now I've only used it twice, so I definitely need to use this more, but I feel like a lot of people were kind of contemplating, you know, as far as if they were gonna go with cool tone palettes, you know, this or Culturals. They are not dupes of each other. Hold on. Okay. I thought about pushing stop, but I was like, you can just see my butt when I stand up. Okay, obviously, totally different palettes, color story wise. I just know a lot of people were like, if I'm only gonna get one, which one am I gonna get? I just think Longing is a much better palette formula wise. You know, I love Blend Bunny, and I've always said like, oh, it's one of the best, but I mean, Cosmic Brushes was up there for me too, but it just dropped off a little for me, formula wise. And oh no, I just stuck my fingernail in that shade. Yeah. But anyway, yes, I would recommend Longing over it. If you want to pick up both because they are not dupes of each other. But if you were just like, man, I only want to choose one, I would just recommend this one. Quality wise, really, really loved my looks. Can't wait to play with this one more. Now we have Nueva Vida by Gourmand Girls and my girl Steph. This is just a happy palette. It just makes me very, very, very happy. And this is one that really, really surprised me back when I got it, because I thought it was fun, but I wasn't sure how the looks were gonna look, you know, just turn out with the shades. Every look is such a banger with this, and the quality is so good. And I think everyone that skipped it because they didn't know about the color story really, really missed out. Really, really missed out. And number one, it's kind of not fair because most of the time when I have this palette, it's gonna, if I used it, it's usually gonna be number one, but it is Into the Night by Glaminatrix. I just adore her. It's just one of my favorite palettes. I always have a banging look when I use this. And if I ever think, oh, I need something kind of neon, or, you know, if I'm like, oh, I want to do a contrast look, you know, neon and then something kind of dark and more mysterious, and this is the palette I would pick up. This has inspired me to do a video, a palette video that I'll have coming up in like the next several weeks as well, because of the layout of this palette, but I just love it. I just do. All right, you guys, this was kind of a long video because I kind of did a 2-in-1. I hope you made it to the end. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, have fun shopping, budget shopping. Bye.